Oh, and we are live on my Whiskey Den, coming up on St. Patrick's Day, one of my favorite holidays. Obviously, I'm the namesake of it, so it can't be too bad. But we got Ben and Mike, as we usually do here, and Mike says he's a ginger supporter specialist. I'm not quite sure what that means. Maybe he'll tell us. I know what it means. And we're also lucky enough to have Josh and Gretchen Golladay on. They are Ironroot ambassadors, and they have Texas Whiskey Life, which is a web page, Facebook page, Instagram. You're all over the place with that, kind of spreading the gospel of Texas's good whiskey.
That's right, man. We're trying, yeah. Yeah, we are kind of all over the place, aren't we? A little like...
Are we talking about emotionally, or are we talking about physically?
Emotionally, yeah.
Okay, yeah, we are. We're good.
All right. So, I forgot...
You guys are killing it this week with all the Ironroot, man.
Congratulations. It's been fun watching.
We'll take it. I forgot to hit the intro, and I made it, so I'm putting it on for a second. So.
Let's get into it. 1, 2, 3.
All right, so that was done. But yeah, we might have had a little more fun than we typically do with reviews because, I don't know, Robert and you guys seem a little more relaxed, and we maybe talked to you a little bit more than some other places. So we might have felt like we had some free license to roam a bit.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm accustomed to ginger jokes all the time. It's fine.
Well, and gingers are soulless, so I mean, they don't.
Yeah. That means we can only feel one feeling at a time. That's how that works. Yeah.
Maybe it's not even that sometimes.
Yeah. Plus we said you got your revenge like right away, like 5 seconds into the first video. You're like, well, I guess we probably should. Yeah.
Revenge of the gingers.
But yeah, thank you for coming on.
Yeah,
thanks for having us.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna barrage you with just a couple random questions before we get into kind of normal fun talk.
Yeah.
For both of you, was there a certain whiskey or an event that you guys had gone to that kind of clicked for you and put you going down the whiskey path rather than beer or wine or anything else you were having?
Yeah, definitely. I'd kind of dabbled in whiskey for, I don't know, going on 10 years now, a little bit here and there. Not really. I wouldn't consider myself a whiskey guy back then, but you know, I would occasionally have Yamazaki when you could find it on the shelves. I used to try and get that. I'd get Basil Hayden. I'd get, you know, Lafroig every once in a while. Somebody introduced me to peated Scotch, and you know, I started accumulating a few bottles here and there. And then I can clearly remember the first Texas whiskey that grabbed my attention, and really. I was sitting on the back patio of our house, grilling out with a bunch of friends, and I had a big pour of Garrison Brothers in like 2015. And I can still remember like the one sip of, man, this is so different and so much more, you know, robust and intense than any other bourbon that I've had before. I really dig this. Let's go out to the distillery and check these guys out. And so we did. And kind of, you know, and now here we are. Yeah. Spiraled out from there, right?
Mine was, he got me into the Whisky Tribe back when it was really small. And they were doing happy hours, like really small, tiny happy hours on the patio outside of the classroom at the towers. And I went to a Scotch tasting, and Daniel happened to do it. And I said, I don't like Scotch. I don't want to drink anything. And he's like, well, just come upstairs. Just come up to the vault. It was the old vault. And just try some. Didn't like anything I had. And the last thing he poured, he's like, I'm going to get you to like Scotch. I'm like, I don't believe you. Can we just go drink wine? And he poured me Bunahab in 12. And that was it. And then I was hooked.
She went from hating everything to like, wait,
can I have some more?
This doesn't suck.
Yeah. Can I have some more? He's like, no, the class is over. So.
She wouldn't even give you a second pour. That's terrible.
Oh, I got a second pour.
Oh, okay, good.
I just want to try everything over again because then all of a sudden I like Scotch.
I think a lot of people get the experience of like a Johnny Walker or something, and they think this is what all Scotch tastes like. Or
yeah,
and it's such a broad category, really. And
yeah, it's that whole thing where people associate Scotch with smoky, even though the vast majority are not.
Right.
Those are the ones that people like get seared into people's memory, right?
Yeah.
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 I want to bring up a question from the audience for a quick second. Arthur asked, "You're getting a little bit older, Josh. Have you been mistaken for Jonathan yet?"
No, I get mistaken for Robert all the time. All the time. I have people approach me like in an oddly familiar way, like I've met them before.
And to sign bottles. How many times?
Yeah,
you
I've been
get
asked to sign things,
bottles,
and I'm like, "What's this about?" And they're like, "You remember? I mean, like I met you at the distillery a while ago." I'm like, no.
And sometimes it
No,
gets
that
to his
wasn't me.
head. He thinks he's like more popular than he really is. I'm like, no, they're talking about Robert. He's like, oh.
I'm not the Robert Licorice. So.
But you do look exactly like we were talking about that. Or
I
your
do not
sister.
look. I do not look exactly like Robert. I've got about 6 inches and about 50 pounds on Robert Easy.
And a couple.
Whoa, hey.
But when his sister at the Houston Whiskey Social, Josh's sister went with us. Actually, she was able to go and participate for the first time, and she kind of saw us in action. And the first time she saw Josh and Robert together, she's like, "Oh my god!" Like it was uncanny how much they look alike.
We did an event at a bar, 7 Grand in Austin, right before the Texas Whiskey Festival, and I got to bust out this ginger joke that I've been saving up about. I'm not actually related to Robert and Jonathan, and you don't have to be a ginger to work at Ironroot. It just really helps. And
Mark is not ginger. Neither's Ashley.
True.
Peter.
She's a carrier.
Yeah, it's a carrier.
She's a carrier, but you're just okay.
Have you ever taken advantage of looking like Robert then?
Don't admit that on camera.
Yeah, I
Robert's
cannot confirm. I
watching.
cannot confirm.
I've never done it.
Robert's in the chat.
Only at other distilleries, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know what that is? That has been a really cool. I know you guys wanted to talk about what it's sort of like being brand ambassador, sales rep type people. And first of all, I really want to say we know a bunch of these guys that work for like Balcones and Garrison Brothers and, all these other distilleries that really do it full time. And we both do it part-time outside of our regular jobs. So I have a huge amount of respect for these guys doing this kind of work like day in and day out all the time, as their full gig. So huge shout out to those folks.
Yeah, it's a hustle.
Mm-hmm.
And we're very fortunate that they going from consumers to brand ambassadors, reps, they welcomed us with open arms and said, "Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah, everybody's super awesome.
Yeah, let's hang out."
Yeah.
So.
But to say, have I taken advantage of the relationship or looking like Robert? It is kind of crazy that, if you're wearing an Ironroot shirt or jacket and you walk into some other distillery around here, you walk into some bar around here and you say, "Hey, I'm Josh. I'm Gretchen with Ironroot Republic Distillery. Wanted to come in and, hang out with you guys." They're like, "Oh my God, yes. Come on, come in." Like everybody's so welcoming. It's like you have the keys to the whiskey kingdom at that point.
And sometimes we actually don't have winter coats anymore because Marcia gave us winter coats for Christmas. Got them for all the reps and the family. And so we just unconsciously wear Ironroot jackets now. That's all we have.
You just got to advertise.
We forget. Yeah.
Well, and I think you could kind of pose it as the lost licorice brother.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh.
The bastard child licorice brother or something. I'm like, what was the guy in Game of Thrones? Jon Snow. I'm like the Jon Snow.
Jonathan?
The bastard. Huh?
Jonathan older than you were? You and Jonathan are the same age.
Right about, yeah.
What if you were separated at birth? That's a Lifetime movie. Oh God, I gotta think about this.
I love it. All right. At what point did you? I mean, since you guys said you were tasting Garrison Brothers, and I know you were a huge Balcones fan for quite a long time.
He still is.
I mean,
I know it doesn't go away.
No, it's not.
It doesn't go away.
The Ironroot paychecks help pay for the Balcones we keep buying.
At what point did you realize Texas had a unique niche in the whiskey industry, kind of along that path? Was it like right away when you had Garrison, or was it a little bit later on when you started going to more distilleries and stuff?
I mean, I recognized there was something different about the Garrison Brothers that I had, and I didn't really even know what bourbon was at that time, other than something made in Kentucky mostly, right? I didn't know any of the rules about whiskey making or, the different classifications. I knew nothing. So I just started, we were really into the craft brewing scene before that, and, hung out at all the breweries and stuff, and then started to travel around and check out distilleries as well, and learn more and more and more touring those places and talking to people and trying things. She wanted to go up to the Magnolia Silos up there in Waco, the Chip and Joanna Gaines thing, right?
And he needed a drink while I spent the money.
And I was like, well, I heard there's a distillery up there that's supposed to be pretty cool called Balcones. And so we went, the first place I ever had Balcones was there at the distillery, and ended up buying a bottle of Brimstone because,
why not?
That was another thing that just captured me as incredibly different than anything else I've ever tasted in my life.
Yeah.
And then I remember, I think the third place that really we went to and loved was Andalusia. We went out there, and I remember talking to Ty Phelps and trying Striker for the first time, and still didn't really know what malt whiskey meant or anything, how it was made or any of that stuff. But I'm like, man, this is kind of like Brimstone that doesn't want to kill me. He's like, I know what you mean. I appreciate that.
I think what captured me was going to the distilleries. You can even go to Balcones and you'll run into, Jared or Gabe if they're there, or I can't think of his name. Blonde guy who hung out with my SNWS cruise. Johnson. Thank you.
Yeah.
So it's not uncommon to see them there, and it's a community. One of the taglines that we easily adopted for Texas Whiskey Life was for the crafting community. And that's exactly what it is. You're going to the distilleries, you're being served a drink at the bar Andalusia that Ty made, and that he's serving you a drink across the bar, and it's on his family property, and his spent grains go back to the farm that he lives on for the animals that they eat. And so you kind of go to these places, and there is that sense of family. And when you walk in the door, you're one of the family.
Yeah, I think that's a common theme across all of the Texas whiskey industry, is that it's a very personal experience. And that's one thing that attracted us to Ironroot to begin with. I was fancying myself, like an amateur reviewer, and I'd take pictures and make posts on Facebook and stuff, really just more as like a learning process and sharing and talking with people and having a good time. And I became aware of Ironroot, and I think I picked up a bottle of Promethean, I think it was, and posted one of those reviews saying how much I liked it and what it reminded me of and stuff. And then Robert sends me a message saying, hey, I'm so glad you tried the Promethean, thanks for the picture and the write-up and stuff. Love to have you up sometime. I'm like, oh my God.
I think you woke me up.
That's ridiculous. Like,
oh my God.
One of the guys that owns the place just sent me a
commented,
thank you. That's amazing how personal.
And look how handsome he is.
Look at him.
Funny you mentioned Promethean. I just poured myself a little bit of that as you were talking about it.
Mike is sad now.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh my, if we could get,
You know what?
we'll
I'll go with a good consolation.
Oh, there you go. That'll work.
Hey.
That'll work.
Actually, Promethean, I know I'm not supposed to have favorite children, but it's one of my favorites. When Robert put us through whiskey camp to get ready to become reps, that was the one that just kept striking me. I'm from the Midwest. Patrick knows this. I'm from the Midwest, and I associate whiskey tastes with memories. And so for me, Promethean is a fall day in the Midwest sitting next to a campfire. And that's exactly what I get, all those smells of the leaves if you're making s'mores. And it just kind of brings people together. And then Josh has actually started to use it in like cinnamon roll frostings. You get that Thanksgiving, you made like some
Promethean, pretty killer to cook with, man. Yeah.
Our friend Matt Wright's using it on glaze for
pork chops.
And then we have a baker here in Austin that's actually using it in frosting for spice cake.
Ooh.
So it's so versatile. Not only is it my favorite one to drink, but it's also so versatile. You can use it for a couple different applications. So,
and your description of that is really funny, because our video, that was kind of what we came down to at one point. It was like, it's kind of like being out at a county park, having like a barbecue with like a family. And I'm like, and you're just getting this like neat kind of feel. It's a little bit fresher, looser. We that's just weird that we kind of came down to the same thing.
That's so
that's
cool.
Awesome.
Yeah,
we're Midwesterners, so I mean.
Yeah,
that's true. You don't even know what state you're in, because you're right.
I know what state.
That's what happens when you're in Kansas City. You don't know what state you're in anymore.
I guess technically I've lived here longer than when I was in Iowa, but And I am 4 blocks from the state line, but I'm pretty damn sure I can identify which state that I'm in.
Oh, but no, that's awesome. And you guys mentioned before, Brex and Daniel and the Whisky Tribe a little bit, and I was just questioning, like, at that point along the path, how much of an impact did they play in the role of kind of opening up, I don't want to say doors, but almost kind of, or giving like a little bit of extra confidence? Because I know that did for me a little bit, because when I saw the Tom Fisher's review with Daniel, where they were giving each other they each had 3 whiskeys to convert someone from Scotch to bourbon.
Sure.
And all of a sudden I had half of the whiskeys that they were doing. I was like, holy shit, my taste palette is not that far off. I was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I can't thank those guys enough, or I can't overstate the influence that they had on me, and I'm sure you as well.
The support,
I think the whole Whiskey Vault, Whisky Tribe, the Facebook group, and everything that goes along with everything they do. It's a fantastic place for people to learn and explore and share and make friends, and there's a community there that's really great. And we've branched out into so many other things beyond that, but that was really sort of the foundation of realizing, that this isn't just us bopping around, visiting distilleries and picking up random bottles. This is a real thing. It's a real community. It's a real thing that you can learn about and participate in and do what you want with it. So always super grateful to Daniel and Rex and all the Wizard Academy folks for everything they do and continue to do.
And Daniel's always been super supportive of both of us. I never wanted to go on this journey. I never even envisioned that I'd be wearing, an Ironroot logo and going around and selling Ironroot. That just wasn't in my wheelhouse. It was for Josh because, he's gone through small AA school and continues to, and I knew that was going to be his path. And I remember having a drink with Daniel one night. He's like, why don't you step up and be next to Josh instead of standing behind him? And I was like, well, shit, I'm going to need way more Eleanor for this conversation. But that was a turning point for me when he said that, because I'm a natural introvert. I get to work in a cubicle all day long, and it's fantastic. So for me to actually put myself out in public, and I'm involved with Bourbon Women's now, and I do. Obviously, I rep for Ironroot, where I'm going to the Bourbon Women's Symposium with Ironroot this year in Kentucky. Nice. So they've really challenged us. Although Rex has not acknowledged that I'm an Ironroot rep.
Rex likes to tease her about not being a real rep.
Because I'm not Ginger, so I reintroduce myself every time I see him.
Yeah. No, I think, of course, those guys have contributed immeasurably to the YouTube side of things as well. And we've taken such a meandering path from being on the Cast Strength YouTube channel, dabbling a little bit with the Texas Whiskey Life channel, and doing stuff on social media and all these things, and right about that same time getting to be really friendly with the Licorice family, and then eventually it just sort of became a decision about what's going to be sort of home for us, what's going to be the priority, what's most important. We can't do all of these things. We can't participate everywhere possible. It's just too much. So, this seemed like the right fit. Yeah,
it does start to be kind of life encompassing at some point.
Oh yeah.
And you got to kind of draw little lines to free up your personal life, or
what's that?
Yeah, I don't know, just a personal section, or whatever.
Right.
Well, and I think the fun part is that Josh and I were going to distilleries every weekend anyway. And so we actually, to be able to do this together, has really kind of blossomed our personal relationship. Are you going to lean on me? That's really uncomfortable. But it's fun because we have a shared interest, and we've been together for almost 20 years. And so, trying to find things that we can share a common interest in. And it's fun. I think we've got a pretty good shtick going on whenever we do whiskey festivals and tastings. So it's been kind of fun to evolve over time as well.
Yeah. We're, I guess, sort of unique in that way that it's
actually
usually
know what I'm talking about sometimes.
Yeah, just to have 2 people, male, female, husband, wife, out there, giving different perspectives and talking to people and sort of tag teaming everything as much as possible is I don't know, it ends up working out. So.
Yeah, especially for some people that when you're at a festival, now that we've won World's Best Bourbon, hello, can't believe y'all haven't mentioned it yet.
We're getting there.
Just kidding, I'm just kidding. Especially now that we've won that the last 2 festivals we've done, like the lines are insane. And so, but people also want to know our story and the Ironroot story. And they also want to some people want to nerd out, especially at the Houston Whiskey Social. They really want to know like about mash bills and recipes and things like that, and really the ins and outs and the different barrels and the wave staves that we're doing. And so it was nice that I can continue to kind of keep the line flowing, and Josh can kind of hold court on the side.
Yeah, she's over there talking to people about her favorite cocktails and her memory associated with this and that. And then somebody comes up with some nerd comes up with a question. She's like, "Yeah, go talk to Josh, whatever." We'll talk nerdy stuff with you.
I'm like, I'm a lot nicer than that.
I'm joking. Yeah.
She doesn't.
That's nice. It's like a double-edged sword. You get to tackle, the different groups of people easily that come, because you got some that are social and some that, like you said, want to nerd out and really want the details. So you can.
Well, and then also what's great for the licorices is that they can talk to people. They're not having to run a line, and people can actually meet the people that own the distillery. We're a small family distillery, and so they can actually talk to Robert. They can talk to Marcia, Jonathan when they let him out from behind the stills. People can talk to him, and I think that personal relationship is really what makes Ironroot one of the things that makes us stand out. Is Robert is the one that's interacting with people on social media. Marcia is out there. You're seeing her doing tastings. She outsells all of us by far at these tastings.
Tell me you're going to tell her no.
Right? I mean,
You're going to buy a bottle of whiskey from Marcia, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, why would you tell her no? So
I heard they only let Jonathan out to go pick up awards.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he was just in the corner.
It's true.
So what's the public response you're getting when you're doing tastings and you're out at stores and whatnot?
I think it varies. So it varies depending on where your barrel is, to be honest. And we're starting to learn that.
What you mean is, so like when we go out to Total Wines, like the typical store, although we'll do other, smaller stores as well, bars and restaurants and lots of things. But Total Wine is something that we spend a lot of time going to various stores and doing tastings in. And just depending on where exactly you get placed in that particular store at that particular time of day can really affect, the kind of traffic that comes past you and the sort of folks that are coming down that aisle and stuff like that. So it can really be mixed. I mean, in general, people are interested and they dig it. It's just, you never know. Like, somebody will come up and try Harbinger XC and say, "Oh, that's really smooth and that's really sweet, and oh, that's interesting, and it's made here in Texas. That's really cool." And then the next person will come up, take the tiniest little sip, and like it's just too much. It's too much proof for them. You have to approach it from knowing that you're going to get all types. You get a lot of people that are not accustomed to whiskey, especially drinking it neat or anything like that. Some folks are really into it. Other people aren't really into it. So you get all types, and the important thing is to just handle them all like in a friendly, encouraging fashion to try and win as many people over as you can.
The oyster crackers help too.
Yeah.
Our oyster crackers. Marcia has us do oyster crackers. It's winter, man. I don't know why people don't put them out.
I was going to ask you about that, because there was one group in down by Milwaukee that whenever they're doing stuff, they have like little flavored pretzels. And whenever they have the flavored pretzels, it's like, we sold a case today. I've done my job.
Flavored pretzels. Yeah, we can text Marcia that later. I mean, Marcia has us put oyster crackers out, but it's good. I think it's a good palate cleanser.
Yeah.
Especially when you're moving from Promethean, and then we go up to our Harbinger 115. We typically taste people from lower proof to higher proof, and so I think that helps out a lot. Yeah.
We try and arrange things in a certain order and sort of prepare them for what they're about to taste and stuff like that. And it's an entirely different deal to be next to the vodka and the whiskey aisle in Total Wine, just every random person that comes by saying, "Hey, you guys want to try some bourbon? Yeah, it's made in Texas. Okay, you never heard of it before? Well, come on, let's do it." Versus like doing a whiskey festival where it's already a captive, educated, experienced audience to begin with. it's an entirely different ballgame there.
We actually get a lot of people that say, you know, where are you guys at? And we're, Denison, Texas. And they have people, they were either from there, they know people that live up there, they've driven through there. And so there's a little bit of nostalgia for people. I mean, then our price point's really good too. I think a lot of people are surprised at our price points compared to some other brands. I won't say their names. So I think that helps out a lot too.
We've already discussed it on the channel, so that's okay.
So,
but yeah, being a reasonable and affordable does make it aspiring when you're not going through and spending $100, $200 on a bottle,
Right.
and you can pick up 2 or 3 and then go home and take a comparison yourself, kind of more in depth. Really makes a big difference. So
yeah, and that's always been one of the goals for us, is to try and keep the whiskey, at a price point that we could afford, right, to buy as a consumer, and keep that accessible, and get the whiskey in the glasses of as many people as possible.
Yeah.
So I think you're always going to have a little bit of a premium price point when it's a smaller distillery, when it's a really handcrafted process using premium and quality ingredients or unique corn varieties, as we do, right? You're always going to have a little bit of price influence there, but we definitely try and keep it to the point where it's accessible.
I think completely, because we've tried a couple other ones that were using like some heirloom corns and stuff, and still really nice whiskey, but when you're, like I said, jumping up to $85, $110 a bottle, all of a sudden you're starting to take a question. I do start taking a question of it, and you're hoping that you're getting the return on investment. Otherwise, you're like,
yeah, you start to ask yourself, like, oh man, I really hope this is incredible.
Yeah. And I think that's why it was such an easy transition for us to go from, and we still are consumers very much so, to go from consumer to client, because we actually really love the product that we sell. I mean, we drink it, we have it in our house. When Marsha and Robert called us and kind of offered us the opportunity, they said, we only hire family. And so so we are family. They invited us up for Thanksgiving. I think we're going up for Thanksgiving again. Robert, by the way, I just invited myself for Thanksgiving.
Yeah. I think that it was already implied before you said
really
that.
Good. And so, we've got that sense of family that when we're out, and if, we're tired, we worked like, 40, 50 hour week at work, and we're doing a tasting, we still love what we do for Ironroot, and we do it for the family. And to get the word out, and we really like when we sell. So I think that has a lot to do with it as well.
Oh, sorry, I just switched over to Icarus, and this one has been like a little
So
personal
good.
gem.
We have it out here somewhere.
We do.
Yeah, I just poured some
New batches coming out.
Pretty low on
soonish.
the Icarus, but got a little bit left.
Robert can probably tell us when the next batch is coming out.
I hear it's pretty soon.
I hear it's in the next.
I don't think he wants to tell us too much. I mean, all of a sudden stuff will be gone. It'll be there's enough mules just in this chat alone that could cause a real supply chain problem.
It's May. So Robert's saying May in the chat, and so that May is our Kentucky Derby party at the distillery. So anyway, it's in Texas. Holy hell. The Kentucky Derby party, it's fun. We went last year, and it's amazing. It's a really great time. There's a charity that is involved with it. So it's a great day, and plus now you get Icarus.
Is it at the distillery?
Yeah, so the distillery. It will be the first Saturday in May.
That's great. That's very tempting.
Oh, look, I see it. Oh, poor
man.
It's getting low though.
Benjamin's got he's double handing it because he doesn't want to drink it.
Trust me.
He took off the wig after Mike broke his. He's like,
Exactly.
I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah,
It's all right. I switched to the champion.
There you go.
Hey.
I'm in South Carolina, so this collection is too precious for me. I can only get a hold of Harvey.
Hey, I can't get it either. I had to drive. So
Really?
So I'm curious. You guys were doing all Ironroot all week, which is amazing. Thank you for that. What did anything surprise you? Did you shift from one favorite to another? What was the standout? Tell me about it.
I'll let you guys go first because you're trying more of it more than I did. Because in Wisconsin, we only really had Harbinger and one other one that I'd gotten from Chicago. But so some of these were new to me. So I'll let these two go first because I think they had a little bit longer time with them.
Sure.
I Promethean. I don't know that it was necessarily my favorite, but it was pretty far up there. obviously I can't have it anymore because I'm a dipshit and I knocked it
Oh.
and broke it. But I have to say the Icarus has changed for me. I like it more than when I first had it.
Okay.
And okay, so is it Icor or Icar?
Icor.
I've
It is Icor.
pronounced it both ways. I can say that Robert and Jonathan were pronouncing it Icor,
yeah.
but I've heard that technically you can maybe pronounce it either way.
Okay.
I did a little Googling, and that's what Google told me.
So I was very, very appreciative to get to try that the actual bottled version. I had gotten on visit to the distillery, gotten to try it before it made it into the bottle, and he didn't tell me what it was before, and then I had it, and then he told me the proof of what it was in the barrel. I was like, this is ridiculous. It drinks like a 48%, and it was fantastic. But I kind of think that the bottled version actually is better. And,
Yeah, I think
whatever
so.
they did
More
is
time, I think, in the barrel.
yeah.
Yeah, and I know they, there were some tweaks and adjustments made, semi last minute. Just Jonathan was not quite happy with it yet, and thought it could be more. And I think they really just nailed it. It was my favorite quote still ever was from Jason from the Mash and Drum. We tried it at the YouTube channel barrel pick that we did with all those guys, and he said, "Jonathan, what the hell kind of juicy fruit barrel did you put this in?"
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah, their stuff is it's great. As it was said on another episode we did, I really believe that their stuff is more craft than the other Texas distilleries that I've had, and it's not taking anything away from them. I think there's just more hands-on, like fine woodworking being done with it,
Right.
that versus some of the others, and it's great. And they're super nice people.
Yeah.
They're very nice.
I think one of the cool things is, and this is part of the story that we tell people, is that a lot of what goes into Ironroot is grown within 60 miles of the distillery. Marsha and Jonathan look through the seed catalogs every year, and they're going to local farmers saying, "Hey, will you grow this?" Because they've got those relationships now, and so they're constantly playing, constantly tweaking. They're just having a good time with it, and they're just scientists. They're like, Jonathan's like a mad scientist sometimes, and their hearts and souls are into it too, because it is their family business. So,
Yep, absolutely.
So Ben, what one was your kind of standout from the week?
I don't think anything's changed for me. Basically, Icarus is still my number one. I absolutely love the balance that strikes between the fruit and the Isle of the smoke, the brininess, all of it, just the way it plays against each other. But I still, there's a handful of whiskeys where when I take that first sip, that it's, for me, is almost like having a religious experience. And that first sip of Icor was like that. Like, oh my God, this is just absolutely incredible. And it is, it's just a gorgeous whiskey. But after that is Harbinger. That was my first taste of Ironroot. Still love that one. It's my favorite. It's still my favorite bourbon. I've been saying that for a year now.
Awesome.
Thank you.
My favorite bourbon. I mean, I absolutely love it. The absolute value for it. And then Promethean. I not saying one is terrible in any way, but they're all amazing. But that for me would be my order. But I just love how, because I remember getting the bottle of Promethean and thinking, okay, how can these two bourbons be that much different, coming from the same distillery, kind of same thing? But it is. It's really different, and they're both really good in their own way. But I don't know. There's something about the dark fruit and winey character of the Harbinger that I really love. So
yeah,
that's cool.
I think it's one thing that I love about any distillery from anywhere, whether it be Texas, elsewhere in America, other places in the world. And I think Balcones kind of fits in this category for me as well, where the two whiskeys are incredibly different from the same distillery, like you described, and yet there's still sort of a DNA or a fingerprint. There's a certain signature flavor profile where they have incredibly different profiles overall, and yet there's still a common thread there.
Yeah. There's a nice backbone that's kind of similar that you can pick out through parts of it.
Yeah, it's like, I think about, Balcones True Blue and Single Malt are made with entirely different grains and everything, right? But they still taste like Balcones, even though they do taste very different from one another also. I think that's kind of the same deal for Ironroot for me is, and that I think is a hallmark of a really awesome distillery is that there's a sort of identifiable house style.
Right? I think going off of that, with kind of what I noticed was there's a mouth feel that you get from Ironroot that's a little bit kind of silkier than some other places. But I think the two that kind of stood out for me just from having, because they were kind of not similar flavor profiles, was Icarus and Icor, because they were so rich and deep with flavors and multiple flavors and layered, but it was not like a spiky ride. It was this really smooth transition through what was going on. And I was really impressed by both of those. Just like I said, everything was rich and full, but only like to a mid-range, so there wasn't like this really high spiky note. Everything just was like this wonderful flow together.
There's a great kind of viscosity.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Not that I think I like Promethean quite a bit too. And I liked them all, but I don't know. I think I had Promethean first, which I hadn't had before, and that had such like a rich dark molasses kind of caramel note on the nose. I was like, ooh, well, I'm just excited by the candy smell in here. I'm like, I know what I know what I'm getting into, like right off the bat. Where the Icarus, like Ben was saying, was just such a nice blending of them. It was really impressive. Just to tame down like the peatiness, to just have it be this like nice kind of flutter up like 2/3 of the way through, and then kind of also go away on the end to let the barrel come back. I was like, it was really impressive. I mean, the whole list of them were so, but I guess those probably stood out more to me because I hadn't had them already.
Sure.
So I was like, I was like Harbinger. I really enjoy it, but the new flavors that were kind of coming, and that you guys get them with so much of even though it's different corn, like a dominant corn mix.
Yes.
Like Icor is like a bunch of it, like 3 different barrels, and they were like, I think 95% yellow corn in each one. And I'm like, holy crap, only a touch. Yeah, like 2.5% or what, like 1/3%, like 3%, however you divide it up when you're putting those 3 barrels together. I'm like, and you're getting such of a different layering from just that much. Was crazy.
Yeah, I always kind of think about it like if you're cooking a steak and you were to just cook that steak raw and with nothing on it and just grill it, that might be okay. But all of a sudden, when you put maybe black pepper, kosher salt, maybe a little bit of garlic powder on there or something like that, transforms the whole thing. And it's such a minor touch. It's the vast majority of it is still the steak, right? But it's that seasoning, it's that flavor accent that makes all the difference in the world. And that's kind of the whole idea behind the whiskeys.
And that's kind of like, we were talking steaks the other night about something. That's kind of like where you have a steak and it's great, and you have a steak where you kind of go off in your own world and your eyes flutter. Your significant other like accuses you of having a moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had that in Chicago with the steak, and she's Sherry's questioned me 2 or 3 times, like, what just happened? I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. I kind of just cheated on you. I don't know what happened here for a second. I really lost myself. I need to come back here.
Just let me have this moment.
Yeah.
I saw a question in the chat there. Nathan Clark there, which is he's in San Antonio or near San Antonio, I think.
What are we looking forward to?
Yeah, what whiskey are you looking forward to most this year, Ironroot or otherwise?
You go first because I'll cheat.
Okay, you go.
Well, I want to go. Shoot, now I wanted you to go first. Anyway, I guess a couple of things. Was it almost 2 weeks ago at 7 Grand, right before the Texas Whiskey Festival, we premiered, I guess, so to speak, a Revolution barrel. Revolution. Sorry, we have 2 barrels. Revolution barrel that we did with Cask Strength. Actually, Cask Strength and Patrick Cohn came up to the distillery with us right before the Bastards Ball.
Vito and Brad.
Yeah, Vito and Brad.
The real Vito?
they came to help us pick out a barrel on it. It's going to be in 3 different finishes, and we premiered it at $7,000. And wow, I'm very excited about that, and I look forward to other people being able to do the Revolution because it's a fantastic experience to be able to kind of have that blending fun, I guess.
So yeah, let's just explain what that is because I think these guys have heard about it, but maybe not everybody is familiar with the concept. So we do a barrel pick of a bourbon. Let's say that was the case this time. We settled on a Bloody Butcher mash bill bourbon, and that barrel was split into 3 different finishing casks. So finishing any kind of whiskey is not a new thing; everybody does it, but to do a single barrel finished 3 ways is the idea. So when we picked the barrel that we liked the most, we started adding little bits of dessert wines and other spirits and things in there, into little sample cups and seeing which ones kind of seemed to work or enhance or do something that we thought was cool. We ended up settling on Armagnac,
Pinot de
Chardonnay, and Madeira.
Oh.
So you'll get the exact same Bloody Butcher corn Ironroot bourbon finished in those 3 casks. Plus, we got to try the original alongside there. And I think we went from the original pick and then did the Pinot de Chardonnay one first because it was kind of the most subtle. But even with that subtle difference there, people couldn't believe that it was the same exact, not only the same exact whiskey, but the same exact barrel, right? People were just blown away about how different each one was from the next. So it's a really cool kind of experimental project that I think has turned out really well.
I think it's going to take off. That was a lot of fun. So I really look forward to that. And then our 6-year anniversary release in November.
Yeah.
6 years in a barrel. Come on.
Yeah, you talk about the I-Core. I think the thing that excites me the most about the I-Core is that's, a blended 4 and 5-year-old casks. And that just shows, as much as you might like Harbinger or Promethean or whatever that you've had, that shows when it gets to that 4, 5, 6-year-old range, how good it can really get.
And not oak dominant either.
Right.
Right.
Because that's what we were talking about, that was not, it was kind of subdued on the oak where some of the other whiskeys that you get from Texas 2 or 3 years in, you're like, it's time to take the damn thing out.
Yeah, no more.
Well, and Ironroot is in a really, there's 5 distinct regions in Texas, climate regions. And so one of where Ironroot is they've got snow from Oklahoma. They've got Lake Texoma nearby.
Yeah, it's a little different climate than say, down
like
here
a Garrison,
in Austin.
yeah. Or, Houston with Whitmeyers and Yellow Rose and that group down there. So what we have up there is so unique just in terms of the climate zone. And I think that's fun too.
Yeah. So in terms of a non-iron,
I was just gonna get to that. So,
gosh, non-Texas.
Well, so he was asking if there was something we would look forward to a release of. I would say the thing I'm most intrigued by right now is that Redbreast 27, which I've heard they've got down at $7,000 downtown. I may need to.
No, you need to stay home. You need to practice social isolation.
After the social isolation period is over, we need to go down there and get a pour of that. But favorite non-Texas whiskeys, I like stuff from everywhere. There's a lot of things that I like in American single malts and bourbons and things like that. I love Westland and Del Bach and, Stranahan's makes some really cool stuff. A lot of Kentucky bourbons are fantastic. I tend to like Old Forester a lot, and Four Roses and Booker's, of course, is always been a favorite. Patrick knows.
No, don't give him Booker's when
I had to swallow when that came up. I almost had an incident.
But Josh tends to drink Booker's and wander around in strange places at 3:00 in the morning.
I would say if I had to pick one thing that I liked outside of Texas the most, I would probably say Scotch. Kind of malt whiskey in general is something I gravitate towards, which is ironic since we're kind of known for corn. But I would say Scotch is overall, kind of home for me outside of Texas.
Who was it that brought me the the Traverse City Whiskey Co. bottle for the Bastard's Ball? I forget who that was. I can see his face. Traverse City Whiskey Company. Not only just because it's from Michigan, they have some really
Jason Sater,
yeah, they've got some really great stuff coming out.
Mhm.
I'm really fascinated with what's coming from them. I know some of it's sourced, and I know some of it they do there, and it just, to me, again, that brings back memories because it was a lot of summers that I spent up there and some winters, and so I really kind of like the memory association. Dahlbach, Josh mentioned. Always excited about that. And now I want an Old Forester birthday bourbon this year, if we can find it.
Good luck.
We went to Old Forester tasting
Be
at
willing to pay for that, man.
$7,000, and I was like, "This is really good." Josh was like, "We can't find it."
Yeah, that was when I was going to hope I won in the lottery. I brought 8 other people, and I think Sean got Old Fitzgerald 13 about like 10 picks in. I think I picked like 87. No, there was like 400 people there, so I still got to pick a bottle. So I was okay, but
That's cool.
nowhere near the year before where I got picked like the Pappy 15, like number 2. So that's,
I remember that. Yeah.
I was like, do you want to stay for another one? I'm like, nope, I'm good.
All right.
But I got one. Arthur's got a question for you guys.
Hey, Arthur. Yeah. So which flavoring corn interests the most? Magic Mana, Florian Flint, Oaxacan Green. I will say that everything that I've been, either part of or have personally picked so far has been Bloody Butcher. So there may be something to that, but I would say the thing that interests me the most is probably the Green Oaxacan.
I was going to say that. I'm kind of interested in that too. I haven't had a lot of our stuff that has Green Oaxacan in it, and so I'm kind of interested to see.
Every time we've tried it, though, it's like it's super interesting, unique. It has this kind of green bell pepper, jalapeno sort of vibe to it that I've never tasted before in any bourbon anywhere, right? So yeah, and it's one of the oldest, of the heirloom corn varieties. It's one of the most heirloom, right?
I think that's a neat new flavor, like you said, kind of green pepper or like almost jalapeno, like a neat little kind of bite to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
cool.
Which ends up, it sounds kind of weird when you say it that it tastes like green peppers or jalapeno, but I mean, think about like sweet heat, right? It kind of works. It's a flavor combination that you wouldn't expect in a whiskey, and yet, if you think about food that's sweet and spicy like that, that works beautifully, right? So why not in a whiskey?
Yeah.
Not to divert from Ironroot, but it makes me think of the Yuntos that I've tried from Balcones.
Oh yeah,
it's got that. To me, the tequila gives it that kind of green peppery note to it that I think is freaking amazing.
Are they going to do that again?
I hope so, because I was absolutely in love with that. And I thought, I looked at it, and I like mezcal, but I was like, and tequila, but I was like, man, I don't know, single malts in tequila casks. I don't know if that's going to work. And then I got to try it, up at the distillery. I was like, yep, I'm going to need a bottle of that.
This year's Mirador. Holy crap! I'm gonna pull a Daniel and probably buy a case of it.
The new Mirador is pretty great.
Jared Hempstead, the head distiller, brought a bottle to the Texas Whiskey Festival, to the distillers dinner, and holy God, like I wouldn't let it go. Daniel tried to grab for the bottle, and I grabbed his wrist. I'm like, no, I will pour this for you.
He reached across the table for the bottle, and she just snatched his wrist.
Snatched on.
Put it back.
And he doesn't like to be touched, and so he kind of just froze. So,
I will kill you.
I will kill you over this bottle.
Yeah. Did he like recoil and like? Oh, that's. I had one other question, just kind of about how you guys got into it a bit.
Yeah.
When you guys went down for Cask Strength and did that groundbreaking three-part trilogy about Ironroot at that point, was that kind of the foot in the door with the family?
Yeah.
The fact that Robert had to tell us to move the camera,
super professional.
within the first 10 minutes of interview, he's like,
hey bud,
you might want to move the camera.
You might want to be like in frame there.
Yeah, and then
got it.
And we hadn't practiced. We bought this camera like 3 days before. We're like, yeah, we're good. We don't care. Damn thing stopped recording. I had this. I called it the drunk. What the hell is that thing called?
The gimbal.
The gimbal. It was drunk. It kept shutting off, and so my phone would go down. It was
basically a
clusterfuck shit show. But
and they were so nice and like spent hours and hours
Yeah.
hanging out afterwards and talking and stuff. And it was a fantastic time. But I think, yes, that was sort of I had actually met Jonathan a year prior at Wizard Academy, and I talked to him a little bit and just never really thought that much of it. And I think that was what. Oh yeah, I met that Ironroot guy. I need to go buy some Ironroot and try it out. But it was quite a while till we actually got up there, and that was our first visit there. Actually, was to film that thing. Which maybe what I need to do is go back through all that footage and do a director's cut, like a Criterion collection. All the unedited footage with commentary.
And then there's like Marsha talking off camera, and you can hear Robert go, "Marsha, you need to be on camera." And I don't think she wanted to be. And so we're like moving all the stuff. It was. I'm just glad that they still respect us, because it was a shit show.
That took forever to edit, and it was just like, but
that's why it was 3 parts.
Yeah, we had a great time. Actually, what happened after that, after we released all that, I went back up to Dallas for a couple of days for a work conference thing, and told Robert, hey, after this thing's done, I'll come up and visit you guys if you'll be around. He's like, oh yeah, absolutely, come on up. And
you went to the barrel warehouse.
Yeah, we were hanging out and trying things, and he was busting out whiskeys from their collection and everything. And he's like, "Are you trying to drive back home tonight?" I'm like, "Man, I got to go to work in the morning and stuff." Yeah, I probably am going to try and drive back to Austin. And kept hanging out. And then he's like, "Yeah, you're not driving back to Austin. You're staying with me tonight." I'm like, "All right, I guess I'm not going to work tomorrow."
Well, you did.
I did actually. I got up at 5 in the morning and drove back to Austin.
Yeah, drove right to work.
But yeah, that's between those two experiences of just getting to know all those guys and spending time with them. I think kind of went from there. Yeah. So
that's really neat. And how have your actual jobs taken to you, having this outside job that is a little more encompassing, or like I don't want to say imposing, but I mean it is kind of more your guys' lives, because you guys were kind of, like I said, the whiskey evangelists for Texas before this happened. So I know they were pretty involved. Have they been pretty open to you being like, hey, I got to leave today at 3:30 to go be out at some place to do a tasting or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I really at times, I'll say, skip lunch in order to leave early if I really have to or whatever. I try and be mindful that I'm not taking advantage of one job over the other, and we schedule things mostly 6-7 p.m. or on a Saturday or Sunday as much as we can, stuff like that. So it hasn't really interfered. At times I'll return somebody's call or email while I'm on lunch or what have you, but it really, I think people at my regular job mostly just come and ask me whiskey questions. Basically what it ends up becoming is now I'm known as the whiskey guy at work, for better or worse. So
and I work for the state, so they're really, I kind of have to keep it on the down low a little bit, because there's some interesting rules about having a second job, and I'm like, well, I don't technically have scheduled hours, I really don't. And so but I sure do come in handy at the Christmas party every year. Yeah, they sure, a lot of those people sure as hell did want some bottles.
Yeah, and I mean that's kind of
tasting it. So
that's kind of overall, we try and not have it imposed or interfere or anything like that. And a lot of the stuff that we're doing on a really regular basis, aside from special events like Texas Whiskey Festival or whatever, it's going to a Total Wine on Friday evening or Saturday afternoon or whatever. So it's really just cutting into our free time more than anything. But, we love those guys. We love the product. We believe in the family and the distillery and everything they're doing. So it ends up not really feeling like work most of the time, even though, some tastings go amazing and other ones are really slow. But it's something we're happy to do and grateful to be able to participate in, and grateful to have the opportunity.
Now, you guys have covered some of the other questions just through us talking, especially kind of like how you kind of break up people at festivals, like Gretchen's getting people through and keeping them moving. You might be talking to them. And I know this came up one other time in a chat. have you had to deal with the drunk guy at a festival?
Oh yeah.
Like the really drunk dominating your discussion
Yeah.
guy.
Or
more than a couple of times.
So, I have two favorite drunk ones. The drunk one that thinks that they know us, and maybe I don't know because I've seen us on YouTube or they've seen us on social media, and they think that we're best friends. And I'm horrible with names and faces, so I could potentially likely have met them, and I don't know. But they come behind the table, and that gets a little uncomfortable once you come behind the table.
I can see that.
For TABC rules. So there's that guy, and then for me as a woman in Texas, in the South, there is well, hey, darling, thinking I don't know what the hell I'm doing or what I'm pouring, and I'm like, they're like, oh, what do you got? And I'm just like, hey, here's some 115 Harbinger, 115 proof, and they're like, oh, shit.
What now?
Yeah, what now? We just want to wonder, and they're like, oh, okay. And so I guess those are my two favorite ones, but most people are pretty. I mean, we've never had any issues.
No, not really. I mean, for the most part, people just, have had a bit too much to drink, and there's usually not that many.
Yeah.
And to be fair, everybody's been in that situation where they've drank more than they should have, and they ended up not being the most polite or socially acceptable or whatever. But I've never had it really get bad. I've had people talk to me a little too close, a little too much, that kind of thing.
Nobody's taking the bottle off the table. I think they're referring to the video that you did when you were on the floor and you're like, what not to do at a whiskey festival.
Oh, yeah.
Super inappropriate in that video.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It happens. It happens, but it's usually no big deal. And it's usually right at the end, too,
No one's tried to grab the bottles. No one's tried to take anything off the tables. I think we're pretty good because there's two of us. If somebody needs to go get somebody water and leave the table, then we can do that. There's never been anybody aggressive. People are just really nice.
Yeah, people are generally kind of interested and want to, have a good time, but not take it too far and all that kind of stuff, which is generally that should be the goal at something like a whiskey festival, right?
Yeah, and so for anybody that comes up to I always say, what's your name? Because again, I'm so horrible with names and faces. I probably have
I'm not good either, so that's understandable. I'm like, I know you. Hi.
Yeah, that's the worst where you're like, I know this face, but like, hey, guy.
Josh plays the top way better than I do. I'm just like, I don't know who you are.
That's where you just overwhelm them with kindness. Like, hey, man, how are you? Good to see you. Hey,
wait. Now I feel bad because I think I was greeted like that once.
I'm like, who is that? He's like, I have no idea.
I have no idea who that is.
What's important is that people remember the way you made them feel a whole lot more than they'll remember what you say. So long as you treat everybody, welcoming and kind and share the whiskey with them, then, all is well. All is well.
So I have a question for you guys. So what have you found out about yourself by doing this job, or what have you been surprised about by doing this job?
I would say that's a great question. That's a great question.
Should have about that.
I will say, I tend to be somewhat introverted as well. Which may be a little hard for some people to believe, but a lot of times I don't want to be bothered and don't want to be around people. I need that time to recharge or whatever. Which, doesn't mean I'm antisocial or I don't like going to those big events and dealing with and talking to people. I do, but, kind of by the end of a little bit of too much of that, I'm kind of worn out. Right. And I used to work retail for a long time back when I was in college, which of course you're just constantly person to person to person to person, helping them out, answering their questions, filling their order, all that kind of stuff. So I developed sort of just it sounds bad to say I'm putting on some sort of a mask because that's not really it, but it's, you sort of just fall into a role where you're like, all right, now it's sales guy Josh out here doing his thing. And I've kind of lost that as I had an office job for a long time. And now doing festivals and tastings and dealing with just random people in public all the time, I've gotten some of that ability back to be able to just go and talk to anybody about whatever.
Yeah, and you get that kind of like more relaxed feel to it too. Like you said, I've had that just from working retail. All of a sudden, like you want to shut down at some point in the day. and just not be that person almost. But it's like, once you know what you're talking about, you're excited about it. It's easy to kind of bring that back out.
Exactly right. Yeah, in a very mixed room of people. If I don't know anybody, and I tend to be very quiet, and I'm not that outgoing. But in the context of, okay, now I'm Josh the whiskey guy working the event, and that's my job here, and I have a purpose, and I feel like I have the confidence, I'm sort of the expert in the room or whatever, then it's fine. Now I'm playing a role. So it's been getting back into that groove that I've been out of for so long, of being able to deal with that volume of social interaction with people that I've never met before. Right. Probably similar for you.
Oh yeah. I am by nature a huge introvert. And I think I know what it's done for me is given me a sense of sense of self-confidence. I think I've come a long way in almost a year that we've been doing this, because I don't think that I know about bourbon or about Texas whiskey or that in general, and I kind of stutter over my words a little bit. But the support of the licorice family telling me that I can do it, Josh and just different people we've kind of grown friendships with and interact with, even people at the Texas Whiskey Festival and different tastings that we do, telling me how much of an expert I am. That has helped out a lot. And even my day job has seen the benefits of that, because I do lead a team of 13 centers and lead some teams out there, and they've even noticed that I will be more assertive, I guess, and be more of a leader. And so it's kind of helped out both ways.
Yeah.
I think with seems like a lot of the distilleries and people in Texas, they are a very supportive group.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like you said, they bringing you in almost into the family when you go in there, and they want to see you succeed. Where I've been to a couple of places where it was like, screw that place down the road, and you get like this whole different vibe, and it's just almost icky, where it's not really supportive and wanting to see people do well.
There's at worst there's a little bit of like fun rivalry that happens that's good natured and stuff, but in general people are really very supportive, and that's been critical. Like I don't think we could have done that. I don't think we could have gone as far as we have now without the support of all those folks.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, Ty Phelps is the first one that asked us to serve for him at the Houston Whiskey Social last year. He's like, hey, I've got to have people to help me. Can you guys come? And we're like, yeah, sure. I learned real quick, had cheat sheets for Andalusia, and we hurried up and got our TABC certification, and it just kind of went from there. I mean, we had never done anything. Josh wound up helping out at Real Ale that day because Davin had to go teach a class. And so it winds up being a very, very big community, but it's almost like a family reunion when they all get together. And I think that's the fun part of kind of being able to help out, is being able to see the owners and the distillers when they all get together and kind of be on the outside and watch that family and that camaraderie.
Yeah. I think the other thing that, really I picked up from a lot from the whiskey marketing school sommelier class and just through experience thereafter, is my natural tendency is to probably be the guy that wants to make sure I have all the facts correct, and then be able to like impress you with all of the facts that I know. And like not in a like sort of boastful way, but just sort of I want to tell you all this information and like get you to understand it the same way that I do and share that with you. But that's completely the wrong approach most of the time when you're talking about whiskey, right? Most people don't want to dive into all of the nerdy details and stuff. You need to know some of that information so that you have credibility for those people that are interested. But for the most part, people want to hear the story. They want to hear about the family that makes it, and they want to hear about the place where it comes from, and they want to hear about what memories it, brings up for you and all those kinds of things. And I tend to be the guy that's like, well, it's made in a pot still and matured in these kinds of casks, and those bring these kinds of flavor notes, and it uses these heirloom corn varieties, and we bring it down to this proof, and kind of nerdy bullet points, and kind of who cares, right? At the end of the day, it's about.
I like that knowledgeable part, though. Like you were saying, it's good to hear the story of everything. But at some point, when someone's like, "Bing, bing, bing, bing," it's like, this is what made it special.
Right.
Damn, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think in letting people, and I've kind of learned over the last probably like month or two, letting people tell you what they want to hear, because some people really just want to get a sip and move on, and some people do want to talk about, Marsha, runs the guys, runs the boys, and they get up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and Danica, Jonathan's daughter, gets massive amounts of tips, and when she's busting tables,
that girl cleans up.
She cleans up, man. I mean, good on Danica, and and Granger helps out quite a bit too. I mean, to really know that it's a family, small business, that's kind of the story as well. And some people just want to know, cool, it's Promethean, how much? And that's fine too. I think there's a place for all of that, and I think we're growing and learning from everybody that we interact with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that is great. We're running over that hour mark. We usually don't like to keep people too much. No, we don't care. I don't care who we're stepping on.
All weekend. This is the first social contact I've had in like 2 days.
I mean, we can go longer. We just usually want to hold you down if you're getting to that point, because we know everyone has like a life going on and stuff. We don't want to mess with that.
Roy Cooks.
What? T-Roy's in here.
T-Roy, sorry.
He snuck in? Well, it's good to see him. Oh, shoot. I forgot. We were supposed to do on our 100 subscriber live stream, someone won samples and they haven't claimed them. So
my person,
yeah, we're actually, give me a minute here. I'm going to need people. You guys can talk about some other stuff. I'm going to pull up people's names from the chats and we're going to pick someone new.
So, all right.
I bet T-Roy hopes it's him now because he just came in.
So,
he's hoping to win something.
So if anybody doesn't know T-Roy Cooks, I'm sure everybody here has heard of T-Roy, but he's awesome. He lives not too far from us here in North Austin. Super cool guy.
Has a hell of a crawfish boil, man.
Yeah, he does. It's coming right up too.
You need to stay out of his pool this year because you were the color of the crawfish last year.
We drank a lot of balcones and Ironroot at the crawfish boil last year, but T-Roy's got an awesome channel that's all about mostly outdoor cooking and grilling and smoking and stuff like that. Does some indoor stuff too, but if you're into like home cooking and especially outdoor grilling and barbecue and stuff, T-Roy's where it's at, man.
Yeah, he's got some really great videos, and I know you showed up on a couple of them. We were discussing different ways to cook steaks and stuff, and the food always looks delicious. You feel like you're left out. You're like, I feel like I should be at the damn party. I'll bring whiskey. You guys cook.
Josh is a great cook 99% of the time. He does not do brisket well. I mean, I love you dearly, but you cannot. He doesn't do brisket well. And so T-Roy and our friend Ryan Harris from Whiskey and Barbecue came over and taught him how to do a brisket. Mm-hmm. Which was fun. I don't know. Did y'all stay up all night long? I don't know how that worked. I think Ryan stayed up.
It was late. Yeah. But good times. And we ate a bunch of beef, steaks and brisket and just everything, man. Yeah.
Well, that got me on trouble when I was on Whiskey Crusaders stream when it was have some bacon ready and then try to drink 23 whiskeys that night. I ended up eating like a pound and a half of bacon, and I was like, I don't know what's giving me the sweats, all the whiskey I just had or all the bacon I didn't realize I just ate.
I had an insane amount of bacon, man. Will was like passing out bacon on Saturday at the Bastard Ball. I'm like, dude, when did you cook that? Did you
That's why I like
a hot plate in your hotel room.
That's why I like going to whiskey festivals with Will. He'll just pop out from around the corner,
give you some bacon,
slide you a little piece of bacon,
It's like pocket bacon. Mike and I were I forgot to do it. I was going to bring that to Still America. I was like, you know what? I need some pocket bacon for this. But they do such a good job on food. I didn't do it. I forgot all about it, but it was well worth it. All right.
So I have a question before we move from you guys. So if you could build and rep your dream whiskey, not naming anything current, what would it be?
Interesting.
Something without gender? No, I'm just kidding. No.
I think really, a lot of folks are realizing this because I've heard this comment several times from people in the community here. But I think that there's such a tie to having the word bourbon, or especially straight bourbon, on your bottle in the US, which I get. There's a fantastic history there and everything, but bourbon is a very powerful, important word in American whiskey branding, right? But in the Texas environment, there is a gigantic opportunity to make astounding whiskey, especially malt whiskey, in refill casks, because you don't get nearly as much aggressive oak extraction so quickly that you have to, manage and be very careful that it doesn't overwhelm. We've had some stuff from Balcones, from other distilleries. I know, Ironroot's working on some malt related projects as well that are aging right now. And all of the stuff that I've had that's used oak, it's like, is this Scotch with a slight American accent? Because it tastes like, an 18-year-old Highland Scotch here, but with an American twang to it. Mm-hmm. And if you can make something approaching the quality of a fine Scotch whiskey in Texas with its own kind of unique spin to it, why wouldn't you? I think that would be incredible. And you could probably get a lot of folks on board with that. That maybe aren't into funky, unique bourbons, right? If somebody's more of an Irish whiskey fan, more of a Scotch fan, you could probably get them to try some amazing Texas whiskeys if we did a lot more malt and used oak. So if I was to open a distillery, I think it's kind of to your question, if I were to design it from scratch, it would kind of be built around malt whiskey and refill casks.
And you talked about opening it, your dream job would probably be something like blending.
Yeah. Doing, what if there was a compass box of Texas, for example?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I get that. All right. I spun the wheel, and the winner in tonight's chat, who's going to get the samples, is Emily Chambers.
Yeah, Emily. Woo!
Awesome. What does she win?
She wins a set of samples from Mike. We each gave a set out to someone that night, and then Nathan Clark, you weren't in it because you won a set from each of us for that night because he was the in-chat winner. So he won a set from everybody. But
send your info in, and I will, let's see if I can find the list while somebody else is chatting. But yeah, please send your info in, and we will make sure to get those out to you very soon. Or I will.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Emily.
But like you were saying, Josh, I thought that was a whole section where kind of single malts are kind of like a hidden. Like ryes are big and almost, I don't want to say done, but they've flourished for some people. Like they're coming into their own. I'm like, they're already there. Mm-hmm. I'm like, ryes are so prominent. I know Ben and I were talking like single malts are kind of or malt whiskey is kind of the way that like the new epicenter of where things are going.
Right. And part of the issue is that there's some definition of malt whiskey in the United States, just legally, but there's no good definition of what an American single malt whiskey is legally, right? And for the most part, like anybody that you would think about, Balcones, Andalusia, Delbach, Stranahan's, Westland, all of these guys, they're playing by Scotch rules, basically. Mm-hmm. You can just assume that this is made in Scottish tradition, more or less, for the most part. There might be some variation there, but it's not like, oh, we called it single malt whiskey, but it's actually 80% corn. They were doing 100% malted barley and all that, right? But there needs to be some sort of legal definition. The American Single Malt Commission is doing an awesome job right now of getting the word out about that and trying to get some legislation in place to define what that category is. A friend of ours actually should check out, there's a podcast called Single Malt Matters by Matt Drew, a friend of ours and a good friend of Ironroot as well. So he works for Montana Craft Malt. So he's actually been a maltster, like the guy that malts the grain. And now he's doing a little more, I think, on like their sales and marketing side. But he has a podcast that's just all about highlighting single malt whiskey in America, which is really cool.
That's cool. The one that was my surprise whiskey last year was this, a single malt that Ben got me. It was Rua single malt.
Oh yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, we were surprised by that, and I just saw that they had their what are the other two finishes they came out in? I know they bought them. I haven't gotten them yet. So what were the other two finishes?
Sherry and port.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
And I'm like, wanted to see what happened to that. But yeah, I was like, for the price that it was, I was surprised again, kind of by the level of flavors it had. We kind of came down to it being like a bear claw with an apple bear claw with like icing on it. It's kind of where we came down to it. I was like,
Yep.
I could drink this and it's a dangerous whiskey or dangerous. Well, I could have 5-6 of these and be like, let's pour another one. Damn it, let's not even see it happening. But yeah, it'd be good to see a little more explanation. So definitely check out Matt Drew's channel for that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Single malt matters. The name of it. So he's doing cool stuff.
I will let Emily and everybody else know that she's going to get samples of Driftless Glen First Marriage, which is a marriage of 2 rye barrels. Union Horse Rolling Standard Batch 1. Jimmy Red bourbon made from Jimmy Red corn. Wilderness Trail Single Barrel Bourbon. And an Ezra Brooks single barrel pick from the Kansas City Bourbon and Whiskey Club.
Nice.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Jealous.
Sorry about that. I was gonna say the Jimmy Red corn one we tried. That was a unique flavor too. That's why you guys, when you were talking about all the different corns you're doing, we're like, I'm excited to see what this one's like. And that one was like super oily. So like when they first mashed it, like they went home the next day they came in, instead of having like oil spots on the top, 3 inches of oil, 3 inches deep. I was like, that is crazy.
Damn,
That's insane.
is that which distillery is that? The Highwire one or
Highwire.
yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Cool.
that was.
I've had some of their stuff, but I haven't actually had the Jimmy Red corn one.
And that was the only one of the few whiskeys that I think we all agreed that the lower proof had more flavor than the higher proof, which is like almost backwards. But I was like, the 47 point whatever, that's where it's at. Good picking it and kind of bringing it down to where it is, because that was really impressive.
Very cool.
Arthur Lopez says he's got you.
Oh my man.
I think he's trying to
I
get
was about to say, go hit up Arthur. He's got a bottle.
He did sneak one in there. All right, before we go, I'm gonna pop some up here. Our friend Stephen Card, he actually has basically like a kind of a radio show going on Thursday nights. This past Thursday was awesome when I listened to it. It's called Musical Dyslexia on 9 p.m. Central. I don't know who all these people are who go by Eastern time zones, but that's on them. Central
Freaks.
yeah. Sorry, we had a couple issues with did you define it as which time zone? That could be my fault too, but at the same time it was a little iffy. But check that out. And coming up, well, I'll go over mine. You guys can go over some stuff you guys are coming out. Next Monday night, we have Dominic Del Santo coming on. He is the owner of DeMello's, which is honey, the spirit distilled from honey. So that it's honey. They make it into a mead. They distill it again into an actual liquor. And then the one that I've had that I found the most interesting was the Reposado, where they age it in used bourbon barrels for 6 months. This past year, they just did one that was 10 months. So they're starting to get a little bit older with it. And I thought it was kind of like, I put it like whiskey in reverse, where you got kind of that, you got the honey flavor, but it's not like sweet honey. It still tastes like a liquor rather than, or like, I don't know, like an actual alcohol rather than liqueurs. It actually tastes like a booze.
Yeah.
But then when you started aging it like reversely, I was somewhat surprised how much flavor it got in it from just 6 months. And I was like, what if you used an Isla barrel? What if you used some of these other barrels? Or if you were down in Texas where shit goes 3 times as fast as it does in Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. So like a year could be like 5 years and you're pulling it in reverse. Mm-hmm. So we're going to have him on, and he gets his honey from Brazil. So it's not local. That's another thing we're going to talk about, because if you were to get stuff locally, you could each have a different flavor profile from just the honey itself.
Mm-hmm. Sure, yeah.
So you could get some really different kind of neat things out of that. Mike was down there. He has also the Green Goddess, but that is something that's we're not quite he's not ready to release that yet, but we got a taste of it, and I'll explain that off screen. But it was extremely tasty,
Mhm.
and it was
Extremely tasty. You have to remember that part.
yeah,
the
extremely
taste part.
tasty.
Yeah.
But definitely something we'll see if we can get them to bring it up or not. There's some legal clarifications that need to be jumped through to get that through. And then after that, on the 30th, we're going to have Blake from Sealbox on. And he's basically a website that goes to different craft distillers and releases basically single barrels and just their basic whiskey so that everyone can get them. Like I can get anything from there in Wisconsin, and typically you're not supposed to be able to do that. I'm not saying, it just happens. But there's a lot of places that we've gotten some of the stuff from that you can't find in your local place. You might not hear about, but they're doing some really great stuff in the that they're releasing from really neat craft distillers. So we're going to have him on, talk about that, how I got into it. And are you guys doing anything exciting in the next couple weeks?
Let's see. Robert and I are going to be on Eric Waite's channel on this coming Friday evening. I think it's at 7 or 8 o'clock, something like that. I forget the exact time, but you can check out his channel for that. And other than that,
I guess it depends. Like Austin is kind of in a shutdown right now. Like big groups are larger than 250 people. But if all things, if we can continue, if we lift some things, Bourbon Women's is doing an event, supposed to do an event in about 2 weeks, and Peggy No Stevens is coming into Bourbon Women, Texas. She's going to do she's scheduled to do an event at $7 grand. And Josh and I will be pouring there and attending the event. And then Marsha's going to be there.
Marsha's going to be there. And I think they're doing something with Wizard Academy as well.
Doing a dinner with
all pending that, travel's not restricted or anything like that.
Didn't Peggy get inducted into the World Whiskey Hall of Fame this year? Yeah, so that's another neat kind of bump to kind of go see her if it's there. That'd be sweet.
Yeah, we're excited about that. And then
John Gunsel is saying he thought it was canceled. It may have been, and maybe we just haven't heard yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure it probably will be. I mean, I don't know. I mean, especially with travel plans, it's probably not the best thing to have people traveling right now.
Yeah.
And then Ironroot has the 5-year anniversary coming up in May. A lot of cool stuff, going on. Well, hopefully we'll see our 5-year. Sorry.
Kentucky Derby party.
Sorry. Yeah. The Kentucky Derby party. Sorry. 5-year.
Yeah. I'm hoping that is. I would be tempted to come down for that because I love those type of events. And that just sounded like
I will make you a fascinator, and you can wear a fascinator, and you can be part of it.
That's one of them fancy derby hats.
I'll make you one. I have a horse in my car right now. I don't know why I have a toy horse in my car, but
no, the anniversary party will be end of the year. What was
November?
that? November.
It's first Saturday in November. Yeah. So. And then looking forward to seeing you guys when you come down for the Bastards Ball. I know it's it's not too far away.
That's right.
It's still a little ways, but yeah, it's at least it's not in the middle of summer again.
It's in September. It's still going to be hot. I'm sorry. It's still going to be hot.
I'll be prepared this time. I won't crumble.
I still remember that day was brutal, man.
I can't
just dying.
I can't ride on a party bus after that.
Yeah, I believe you. That was that was one of my bad debacles. It was a wonderful plan, and it went so horrible that everyone remembers it.
Emily was asking just to answer her question. Said, "What was the malt channel we mentioned?" It's a podcast. So whatever podcast player, it's called Single Malt Matters.
And he's got he's on Instagram, Facebook.
Definitely you can find him on there. It's Single Malt Matters.
That was sweet. But I think we'll call it there. We've held everyone in. I'd like everyone to keep going, but we're about an hour and a half in, so we'll cut it. And like I said, we just want to appreciate you for coming on and talking about your time going through stuff. I didn't even have to ask you the question. You guys just went through them. So that makes it even easier. No, that's perfect.
What happens when you don't let me out of the house for 2 days?
Yeah, just chatterbox.
Nothing wrong with that. But yeah, we look forward to seeing you hopefully later this year as well too. So I think
congratulations to you guys on your channel. It's fantastic. We watch it a couple times a week. So
yeah.
Well, like I said, we might not have to be as playful with some of the upcoming distilleries, but we'll see. There'll be a couple of them to get a few jabs. All right. Well, to everyone out in the chat, remember it's not the size of the den that matters; it's the love of the whiskey. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers. Guys.
Let's get into it. 1, 2, 3.